Hello chess enthusiasts! Welcome back to the Chessventura Channel. In today's video, we will be analyzing a truly extraordinary game between Garry Kasparov and Veselin Topalov, played in 1999. This game is often hailed as one of the greatest chess matches in history. Throughout this game, we will witness some mind-blowing moves by Garry Kasparov, whose decisions were so exceptional that even computers had difficulty understanding his strategy. Alright, let's dive straight into the game. Here, Kasparov took the white pieces while Veselin Topalov played black. The game opened with pawn to e4, followed by pawn to d6. White played pawn to d3, and black responded with knight to f6, attacking the pawn. White defended with knight to c3. This opening is known as the Pirc defense. Black advanced with pawn to g6, planning to fianchetto the bishop to g7, while white responded with bishop to e3, a typical move to counter the Pirc defense and prepare for long castling. Black continued with bishop to g7, and white played queen to d2, preparing to exchange dark squared bishops on h6. Black then played pawn to c6, and white responded with pawn to f3, preventing the knight from jumping to g4 and preparing to push the pawn to g4 if black castles short. Black advanced pawn to b5, attempting to play aggressively by pushing pawns on the queen side. White responded with knight to e2, and black developed the knight to d7. White played bishop to h6, encouraging an exchange of bishops. The bishops were traded, and white's queen recaptured. At this stage, white had successfully prevented black from castling short. Black continued with bishop to b7, continuing the development of pieces on the queen side. White played pawn to a3, preventing black's pawn from advancing to b4. Black then pushed pawn to e5, looking for a pawn exchange. White, however, did not rush to capture the pawn, instead opting for long castling, applying pressure along the d-file toward black's queen. Black moved the queen to e7, avoiding the threat from white's rook and preparing for long castling, as the option for short castling was no longer available. White then shifted the king to b1, moving it to a safer square and freeing up the knight to jump to c1, preparing to attack the vulnerable a5 square. Black continued with pawn to a6. White played knight to c1, and black castled long on move 13. White responded with knight to b3, followed by pawn takes pawn on d4, and white recaptured with the rook. In this situation, white avoided capturing the pawn with the knight, keeping the option open for the knight to move to a5 later. Black then advanced pawn to c5, threatening the rook. White moved the rook back to d1, and black played knight to b6, preparing to push the pawn to d5. White played pawn to g3, aiming to set up a check on h3 while also developing the bishop. Black moved the king to a7, sidestepping any potential checks from the white bishop. White then played knight to a5, threatening black's bishop. The bishop retreated to a8, and white followed with bishop to h3, controlling the g4-a8 diagonal. Black then pushed pawn to d5, attempting to destabilize the central pawn structure. Rather than immediately capturing the pawn, white played queen to f4, delivering a check and placing the queen in a more strategic position. After the black king moved to a7, white shifted the rook from h1 to e1. Black played pawn to d4, attacking the knight, which then jumped to d5, now threatening the black queen. Black's knight captured white's knight on d5, and white recaptured with the pawn, simultaneously threatening the black queen with the rook. Black responded by moving the queen to d6, offering a queen exchange. Now, Garry Kasparov initiated his brilliant plan. He sacrificed his rook by capturing the pawn on d4. A computer would likely consider this rook sacrifice a blunder, but Kasparov had a deep and clever plan that was nearly impossible to foresee. Black accepted the sacrifice, and the pawn took the rook. Kasparov then made another incredible sacrifice by delivering a check on e7, an extraordinary move. If the black queen had captured the rook, white's queen would have taken the pawn on d4, giving a check. The black king would have been forced to move to b8, and then white's queen would advance to b6, delivering another check. The sequence would continue with the bishop covering the check followed by knight to c6, forcing the black king to a8, and finally, queen to a7, resulting in checkmate. Alternatively, if black's queen had blocked the check, knight to c6 would still have posed a significant threat. The best move for black was king to b6, which Veselin Topalov chose. It's crucial to remember that in the previous move, white sacrificed a rook for a pawn, so at this point, white was still down by one rook. Yet white continued with queen takes pawn on d4, delivering a check. The black king captured the knight on a5, and white pushed pawn to b4, delivering another check. The black king moved to a4. Kasparov then played queen to c3, preparing for a checkmate on b3. Black responded with queen to d5, trying to block white's checkmate threat. White then moved the rook to a7, targeting the a6 pawn to deliver checkmate. Black protected the pawn with bishop to b7, but white's rook immediately captured the bishop. At this point, black's queen could not capture the rook because if it did, white's queen would move to b3, delivering checkmate. In the game, black moved the queen to c4, offering a queen exchange. Of course, since white had already sacrificed a rook, Kasparov refused the exchange. White continued by capturing the knight with the queen, preparing for the next checkmate. The black king taken the pawn on a3. White would have then captured the pawn, delivering a check. The black king captured the pawn on b4. Kasparov then used a pawn to deliver a check on c3, which the black king immediately took. Next, white played queen to a1, delivering a check. The black king moved to d2, and white followed with queen to b2, giving another check. The black king moved to d1. Once again, Kasparov made an incredible move that was very hard to predict. Kasparov played bishop to f1, threatening the black queen while also allowing the black queen to capture the bishop. If the black queen had captured the bishop, white's queen would have moved to c2, giving a check. The black king would have been forced to move to e1, followed by rook to e7, and black would be checkmated in the next move. However, black continued with rook to d2, hoping for a queen exchange. After Kasparov's bishop captured the black queen, black's rook recaptured the white queen. But Kasparov still had a brilliant move, rook to d7, that prevented black from capturing the white queen. Black had no choice but to capture the white rook on d7 with the rook. After Kasparov's bishop captured the black queen, the pawn recaptured the bishop, and white's queen captured the black rook on h8. Although black was down in material, he tried to continue the game. Black moved the rook to d3, and white played queen to a8, followed by pawn to c3. White then moved the queen to a4, delivering a check. The black king moved to b5, and white played pawn to f4. Black responded with pawn to f5, and white's king moved to c1. Black played rook to d2, and white followed with queen to a7. At this point, Veselin Topalov resigned. In this position, black could not capture the pawn on h2 with the rook because of the threat of white's queen moving to g1, giving a check. The black rook would certainly be lost, and white would easily win by capturing the remaining black pawns on the king side with the queen. And that's a wrap, chess enthusiasts. This was an analysis of the legendary game between Garry Kasparov and Veselin Topalov. Kasparov won the game in an extraordinary manner, with brilliant moves that even computers found hard to predict. Alright, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you liked this kind of video, don't forget to click like and subscribe. And if you have any feedback, suggestions, or critiques, feel free to share them in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.